Just a little history lesson. This is where sort of a factual situation where we find ourselves these days in horse racing. As you can see, back in 1950, horses started 11, 12 times a year. This was during the heydays of the dirt era, all the way through to 2008, where we're now down to just slightly over 6 on a national basis. A big part of the problem, and obviously those of us who were advocates for synthetic surfaces, we're trying to address this problem to an extent and hope to make some dents in it. This is California. If you compare the top line here, you have the average field size in California, just slightly less than 8. We had a little spike for 2007 and 2008, slightly higher in 2009 than they used to be in prior years, going back to 2000. And on a starts per horse basis, we're down slightly under 5. Now that number, as you can see, really hasn't changed much over the last 10 years. We're right about where we've always been. This is other tracks around North America, and as you can see, the average field size elsewhere we're slightly over 8, and on the starts per horse, whereas we were down slightly under 5 around the country, they're around 6.2 currently, but that's been on a downward curve around the country as well. When the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers, according to Oscar Wilde. Some of you may have been at a horse racing board meeting on December 1, 2005. This was prior to the synthetic tracks coming in. This is a quote from Steve Anderson, who wrote an article in the forum that said, "Trainers and CHRB push for polytrack." This is an estimate from Ed Halpern that in Southern California alone, we're losing $6 to $7 million worth of horses every month in on-track breakdowns, and that probably dwarfed by the number of horses that came back to the barn and didn't run again. I'm sorry, my buddy Howie Zucker's in the back. I'm quoting him without asking permission, but Howie was the head of the Track Safety Committee, or CTT Safety Committee at the time, and said, we had a meeting at Santa Anita several weeks ago at which 20 or 21 trainers attended. Around the table it went 20 out of 21 trainers talking about their injuries for about an hour and a half, nothing but injury, injury, injury. This was a letter read into the record from Owen Hardy that said, basically, Sheikh Mohammed, because of the condition of our tracks in Southern California, was moving all his horses to the East Coast, and referencing Owen's attrition rate, that he turned out 49 horses since January 1st. Of 49, only 6 were back in training. 19 will never race again, and the remaining are either still on the farm or have been sold. Now, I've heard a lot, and I'm sure we'll hear more later from people who say, well, it's not the economy, it's the tracks. I found a little Polish proverb I thought was kind of fun. The man who can't dance thinks the band is no good. This is a little economic lesson, even though I'm not an economist and know very little about economics, but as you can see, this is the 5-year index of San Diego leading economic indicators, and you can see you're looking at over 2008 and 2009, roughly a 26% drop in the leading economic indicators in San Diego County. Our 5-year average distribution per race for purses paid, breeders' award, and owners' premiums at Del Mar. We were down 5.1% in 06 from 05, and despite this economy, we've maintained a pretty decent per race purse average at Del Mar. Now I know people, last summer they were all saying we were lying about our numbers, so I tried to make this very clear that this is on a per race basis. We cut our days, we increased the number of races slightly on the weekend, and as you can see, despite the economy being down in San Diego County about 26%, we were down roughly 6% per race over 2 years, 7%. From a glass is half full perspective, I think in California, and I think this happens across the country, we tend to beat ourselves up a lot. We bag on California racing because it's the thing to do, but as I mentioned earlier in one of my earlier presentations, we still have a lot of strength in this program here in California. On an average per race basis, even though we're down from 2005, average purse per race, this is Jockey Club statistics, I didn't make these up. We're down from around 34,000 to 31,200. As you compare that with the states around the country at 22,000, we still have a lot of strength in this program. We have a lot to be proud of. And even though things tend to be dark sometimes, I think there's still an upside. Now, maybe it is the economy instead of the tracks that's causing these problems. I just pulled out some articles from the Racing Forum within the last 3 or 4 weeks. Fairgrounds to reduce purses. According to figures from the Louisiana Racing Commission, total average daily handle at fairgrounds fell 31.6% from December 08 to 2009. Dirt track, many people think one of the finest dirt tracks in the country, but they have their problems here. Empire State of Mind, this is a Steve Christ article. 2 years ago, 2 years later, New York racing is in worse shape than it was during the darkest days of the 2000s. NYRA's running out of money and could be broke by this summer. Its racing has never been thinner or cheaper. Owners are getting out of the game, and there are 500 empty stalls at Belmont. New York City OTB is in bankruptcy, threatening to shut down March 31, and the Racino is yet to be built. Happy anniversary. These are sample race times at Del Mar. As you can see here, and this is by way of explanation of, I think, partly what may be going on in the handicapping world. As you can see, our race times now in 2008 and 2009 are right about where they were prior to the installation of the synthetic surface. So we all know we had a track in 2007 that was significantly slower. And after meeting with the group of trainers, including John, we made some adjustments to get the times down to more traditional times. And I think we've been very consistent in that approach. And as you can see here is a 6.5 furlong average time. Very consistent again. 7 furlong race times, either at or actually faster than some times we had previously. Same with the mile times. I didn't include the 1.25 miles. You know, in 2007 it was a ridiculous 2:07 or something like that, but came back down to more normal. And we only want to run one of those a year, so it's not a very good sample size. But so why do, like everybody says, likes to say, well, handicappers hate us. Why do they hate us? Well, this is a comparison of the links separating the field. And as you can see, prior to 2006, we had 21 and change links separating the entire field at the finish of a race. In the years since we installed the new surface, we've had much closer races. And the top line's the full field, and the bottom line is the first 5 finishers. So roughly a 20% decline in the links separating the field. If the races are going to be that much tighter, it's going to be harder to handicap. I think that is somewhat axiomatic. This again shows the average winner's lengths ahead of the field, the average winner's length ahead. And as you can see, this has had a similar decline. In other words, we have closer finishes. More horses are in the race. The times are equally as fast as they were before, but more horses are in the race. Now, at a track like ours where we have a lot of novices, a lot of people who, we think that the excitement of this is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. But I do understand how handicappers can find that disconcerting. It makes it harder to eliminate horses, makes it harder to focus on the speed because the races are tighter.